Our reaction to
an 11th team joining F1.
Hello everybody and welcome back to an emergency podcast. The P1 podcast is here to talk about emergency news. And it feels like we've had a lot of emergency news this year, but here we are to talk some more because Formula One is having an 11th team.
Finally.
Dun, dun, dun! And it is called, we don't really know, but probably Cadillac, even though it's all very confusing as to who's actually doing it, what parts are being used and everything else, because the last thing we heard was that, nope, Andretti can't come, even Andretti Cadillac can't come. And then, not a lot being said, and then, some murmurs. Is F1 going to allow an 11th team? And then, boom, Cadillac has been allowed. No mention really whatsoever of Andretti. And here we are with probably a few question marks.
Indeed, yeah. I think on the face of it, probably quite confusing for fans that have heard a lot about Andretti and their bid for Formula One. And then suddenly F1 are like, Cadillac, welcome to the grid. But we'll get into why and how there is still that connection, even though it is a tad confusing.
So, Formula One has reached an agreement in principle with General Motors to support bringing General Motors and Cadillac as the 11th team to the grid in 2026. That's the statement, that's what's been put out. Yeah, the first question, and it even baffled myself. I was like, Cadillac's in. But where's Andretti? Is it Andretti? What's going on? So I guess the timeline of it all is that Andretti, the bid was rejected. And then an Andretti Cadillac bid was also rejected. And he thought, there's no way else in, really, for Andretti especially. And then the next part would be that Michael Andretti stepped back from the day-to-day running of the team, which was kind of believed to be a key factor in the reversing of the decision. So if you remember when they first tried to get involved, Andretti, F1 just turned around and went, Andretti who? Sorry, mate. I've never heard of you. I don't think you're going to bring that much to the sport. The sport's going to give you lots. And F1 is very transactional. They want as much as they give.
And the teams as well, of course, didn't want
an
extra team on the grid.
Exactly. And so when the announcement's been happened today, as I mentioned, there's been no mention of Andretti at all from the F1 announcement. But there has been sort of sprinklings from General Motors and that sort of side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So the key thing here is the Andretti bid. They've basically just got rid of all the Andretti stuff, which makes it clear that that's all they really needed to do. And Formula One's love of manufacturers and a big name. Of course, if you don't know your car side of things, or maybe outside the US, General Motors own Chevrolet, Buick, GMC and Cadillac, and they are the largest automaker in the United States. So massive company. Like you said before, that it was Andretti Cadillac and they said no, and then they went, right, Michael Andretti, he's gone, we're just Cadillac now. Come on in. Of course, Cadillac aren't now going to build their own Formula One team. Andretti were we heard all this stuff about Andretti, didn't we? That they've got a base at Silverstone. They hired people like Pat Simmons. They had a 2026 wind tunnel. They've hired people from Alpine as well. And that project is now being basically taken over by General Motors. So whether Andretti will even be involved in any way, and we'll even see an Andretti logo or anything on the car, who knows at this stage, but it is that Andretti project with essentially the word Andretti removed from it.
It's the first question from Colkey, and it's kind of tapping into what you were just saying there, Tommy. How much do you think Andretti is still involved with the project? So, from what I've seen, there is still... So Mario Andretti, who's the father of Michael Andretti, is going to be a director on the team's board. So how much power that actually is going to really have, who knows? But I feel as though there is some Andretti power within it, but also clearly there's had to be some kind of agreement with Formula One around what this team's going to be called, what the brand is, and everything else, because yeah, Formula One clearly didn't see the value in having Andretti as the 11th team that they'd be shouting about. But Cadillac, yeah, come on. Plaster that everywhere. Cadillac has joined.
Exactly. If you go on the statement on the Formula One website about General Motors and the media, there is a quote from the president and CEO of Liberty Media, Stefano Domenicali, the president and CEO of Formula One, president of the FIA, president of General Motors, and the CEO of TWG Global Motorsport Business, and the word Andretti is not mentioned once. So from Formula One side, they don't mention it, whereas GM have already kind of put in their statement that TWG Global owns the Andretti thing and it's still part of it, and Mario Andretti is going to be this director. That's all we know as of yet. So whether they'll sneak some logos on the car and still have involvement and what Mario Andretti can do. But hey, at least we got that 11th team finally, eh?
Yeah, I mean, there was two parts to this, right? The first part for fans is we want an 11th team. We want to have more cars on the grid. We want, ideally, to have a 12th team as well. That would be lovely. But let's, take one step at a time. But also, I think a lot of fans warmed to the fact that it was the Andretti name and the heritage and the history that team and name and carries in motorsport. So I really hope that with it being Cadillac and General Motors getting involved, that it doesn't kind of wash away what they were trying to do with the brand initially and the team initially, because that would be a shame, wouldn't it?
It would. I mean, for me, Andretti, Cadillac have had some motorsport ties, obviously in like IMSA and things, and have a history maybe not really outside the US of motorsport as much. So the fact that for me, and maybe a lot of people, maybe outside the US as well, that Andretti is a name more synonymous with motorsport than Cadillac anyway for us. So it's a shame because it was such a legendary name, and it's something cool that we've not seen in Formula One for a long time. We're seeing the likes of, I know there was a lot of talk when Williams, for example, got bought out by a company and they kept the Williams name, but days gone by we've seen Minardi become Toro Rosso and name changes from that extent, and it's a shame that these kind of legendary names don't seem to be welcome. But Formula One, of course, they love their manufacturers, which we have seen before.
They certainly do. Next question, Catman2F3. It seems stopping Andretti, the Andretti name helped the bid. Does that mean all new teams joining from now on needs to be a car brand? I think Formula One see the value in that. It's funny when you look at, of course, teams like Haas, they exist. But I feel like they got in Formula One at the exact right point, which was just before Drive to Survive launched. Haas joined in 2016. Then from 2017, I think, it's very clear to see that the Formula One brand, the value skyrocketed from there. The audience viewership went through the roof. And Formula One then realised, no, we're not opening our gates to anybody. And this is
the
essentially...
teams don't want to share the money as well.
Yeah, and the teams as well have had a little bit too much power. We've spoken about this before. People like Toto Wolff being very outspoken about the matter and saying, well, we don't want to share the prize money and things like that. I think James Vowles was also arguing last year his case. I remember a Sky interview very vividly when he was literally on there just talking for 10 minutes trying to be like, well, it'd be great, but also... no, it's not going to happen. It has, thankfully. This is what we need to see from an entertainment side of things. And yeah, it's a shame because Formula One obviously have, as I say, realised the value, which has therefore stopped potentially smaller underdog teams coming in. But look, I think that the whole Andretti taking over Haas narrative stopped when Haas actually created a car that was any good. And they were like, oh, okay, actually they do belong in Formula One. Fair enough, Haas, well played. So yeah. It's. I think from here on, it has to be big names because they see that's the way to bring the most money into Formula One, and probably big manufacturers are the only ones that can afford it anyway nowadays.
Indeed, we've seen Formula One bend over backwards for manufacturers and things anyway. Look at the new regulations that are coming in to, let's be honest, make sure that people like Audi are coming in. Audi were never going to join Formula One if it was just V10 engines like it used to be and V8s or whatever. And then they tried to lure them in which made it very much an engine formula that made all the manufacturers happy, and Mercedes and stuff. And Audi were going to join but didn't, and then now they've joined again. I think they are always going to go after these big car manufacturers, which I do get. Maybe I'm just old school, and to me I think it is a shame that you don't get the likes of maybe when I was growing up and you had your Benettons and your Jordans and things, and these kind of crazy business
you are a
owners.
Red Bull fan as well. You are
Well,
literally
this
a
is the thing. They're not letting Andretti in because it's not seemingly legendary enough, but let's have two brands from a fizzy drink having two teams. But that was all because they came in before, of course. So
next question, P1 Patreon member Captain Obs 3420. Will General Motors joining open the floodgates for more teams to finally join in as well? No, I think, Tommy, you've kind of highlighted there about General Motors being massive in the United States, which, ding, 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 is exactly where F1 want to activate more and more, which is the United States. And they're not done. Just because we have 3 races in the US, I don't think that's even close to where they'd love to get it to. And obviously this helps them in their bid to continue this momentum for sure. Who that would be, it would have to be
another car brand, right?
A massive car brand that was interested. And even then, like it's not like you just go, oh, you know what, I fancy an F1 team. Because most of the time, it is quite rare, isn't it, to see someone just join Formula One. But as we mentioned earlier, that the sort of baseline is already there because they've been working on it for ages, Andretti, and they've got all of these facilities. If you don't have a team to take over, it is a several year project just to get to be ready to create a Formula One car. You can't just go, I'll just put one together in my garage. Yeah, that's no problem. You got a big garage, Dave, haven't you? Yeah. Let's start an F1 team. It just doesn't happen like that.
And Toyota, I think, learnt the lesson big time back in the 2000s of throwing money at it, going, we're going to start from scratch, have our own thing, and it just completely failed. And now, of course, they're rejoining with Haas. I think Audi as well, of course. They're making a big song and dance about them joining F1, but they're taking over Sauber. They're taking over those facilities. Yes, they're going to improve it and build more, but I think this is the way that it's going to attract people now, is manufacturers coming in. And it's clearly worked, these new rules, because in 2026, we're going to have Ford coming in for Red Bull, Toyota taking, having their partnership with Haas. May they even get more involved. Audi taking over Sauber, General Motors coming in as well, and Honda going to Aston Martin, all this kind of stuff. So it is very much the car manufacturers, but I think that this would have never happened if Andretti hadn't have committed in the first place and built their own factory and done all this stuff, because no manufacturer is going to able to go in. The reason why they have come into other championships and things is it's far less expensive and risky than Formula One, and they don't want to come in and be embarrassed like we have seen in the past with Toyota, or even Honda when they came in and worked with McLaren for a long time before they have got the success that they've had now. So yeah, I can't see it happening that there's going to be suddenly all these manufacturers joining, because it's just a case of taking over teams, and a lot of them have already kind of got that manufacturer involvement already.
Absolutely. Next question from Siggy. Do you think they will prioritise getting big names or rookies as their driver lineup? Now, of course, with a new team, that actually opens up 2 more spots for 2026, which is very exciting, especially for the younger talent that we've spoken about so much, about not being able to get an opportunity to be on the grid. Now, it's early to start predicting, but it's also fun to start predicting, so why not? I think Colton Herta surely has to be one of the front runners for a seat there if he wants it, which I'm sure he does. And then alongside him, I mean, Bottas is going to have been out a year. Would he go back? I mean, I'm sure he'd come back to Formula One, but would he be chosen? Checo Perez.
I think this has got Sergio Perez written all over it.
Yeah, little Perez Herta lineup.
Oof. Well, I think it will be. You said big name or rookie. I think they do the same as you get an experienced driver and a young driver, and it's clear from as we go back to the start of Mario Andretti still having a place somewhere, he was very outspoken after that Andretti bid that they desperately wanted Colton Herta or at the very least a young American talent to come in. And yeah, maybe those conversations start up again. I think the hype of Herta died down a lot in recent years, maybe not doing as well as in IndyCar as first did, for example. And of course, there was even talk that he might even go to McLaren at one point when he was really, there was that massive hype around him. But there's still very much a chance, and I think they will want a young American driver, whoever that may be, and then they're going to go for a more experienced person, I can see. And I really do think that Perez would be well suited to it. However much you think how he's doing at Red Bull, I could just see it happening.
And Logie Bear back. Thoughts?
Maybe not.
Not. No,
there's a budget cap.
Next question, P1 Patreon member Abu Dhabi 2021 survivor. Will the points qualifying structure change now with 22 cars? Well, the points probably not. The qualifying structure would perhaps
require just an extra person going out in Q1 and Q2.
Yeah.
They'd keep it as a top 10, I'd assume.
We've sorted it in
Easy.
5 seconds there. That's
easy.
I don't think, but with the points, no, I don't think they would. Personally, if they're not willing to change the point structure now, where we've already spoken about top 4, top 5 teams, I think it will just make points even slightly more valuable with the fact that there's 2 more cars trying to go for it. And fingers crossed as well in 2026, we shake up the pecking order and we don't just have a top 4 teams miles clear and then the rest. Probably going to be one team miles clear, then the rest. But I don't think it's going to be too many changes.
2029 and everyone's really close again, and then they're like, right, we're changing the rules. But I think that with the point system, there's a conversation to be had that we've had before, that maybe they need to offer more points down the order because of how reliable Formula One cars are, to give more people points. But I think that would change regardless of if there's going to be 22 or 20 cars. If they decide to do that, this won't cause a factor into it. We've had 26 cars on the grid in the past and you only got 6 points places. And it didn't change then just because more people added or got taken away. So
That's so true, yeah. We used to have 24, didn't we? And
yeah, but that was, if you go to a Wikipedia page and look at the amount of retirements in the 90s, people would, you were lucky if you didn't have 6 or 7 retirements during the season, every single driver, because it was so, and that's why the points were kind of less. But there's of course talk now of maybe they should add more, but we've not heard really anything from Formula One themselves. It's more just fan chatter of whether it should happen. So I doubt they do it. And then of course the qualifying structure just makes sense to extra person in Q1 and Q2.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. That is us done and dusted for this emergency podcast. Hopefully you're now up to speed with the fact that it's Cadillac, but kind of Andretti, but also not. And yeah, nice and confusing.
Cadillac, not Andretti. That's what they should call the team name. Cadillac, not Andretti.
If they do that, then they're just basically saying it's not. So
still a less ridiculous name than Visa Cash App RB as well.
Very true. Very true. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this, as I say, emergency podcast. I'm sure there'll be another 12 before the end of the year, but we'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
No household chores. Just honestly go to bed. It's an emergency podcast. Like, you know what I mean? Just go relax. Go to bed. Go to sleep. That's your chore. Okay? It's far too late.